Since 2015, Jared Stillman has rocked Nashville sports.
That team freaking stinks.
And now he's back. The takes are hotter than ever.
I mean, let's be honest, he just can't coach.
Welcome to Stillman and Company.
Stillman and Company on the 440 Sports Network, presented by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Again, like and subscribe at Stillman & Co. on YouTube. Everybody keeps telling all the fine folks, go ahead, hit that like and subscribe. Again, like and subscribe. I love it when I see people saying that for me. And go ahead and give it those likes because we get a lot of viewers and not as many likes as we get viewers. So everybody out there right now, go ahead and give it a like. So today, Mike McDaniel is in the Titans building. Arthur Smith will be interviewing with the Titans virtually. And John Harbaugh is interviewing with the Giants in New York. They've already completed the Rooney Rule. They may be able to hire him today. We are on high alert for an Adam Schefter tweet. In fact, let me go ahead and do this right now. Let me go ahead and turn on, and I hate doing this because then I get every freaking Tom, Dick, and Harry tweet from Adam Schefter when I do this. And I usually only do this around, like free agency. I think I have to add an alert for Adam Schefter so that we get that Adam Schefter tweet that says there could be a chance Harbaugh gets hired today by the Giants. I don't know. We shall see. First, though, I do want to tell you about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. My guys, they take great care of my home. They can do the exact same for you. Hiller has been the presenting sponsor basically since we came back on the air. And Hiller has been in business since 1990. Their family owned and operated with 100% satisfaction of happy you'll be, the service is free. Hiller came to my house yesterday. We need to get a humidifier in our home. And I bought a whole home humidifier, brought Hiller out. They brought a project manager to see what it would take. And the project manager, instead of saying, oh, you absolutely need this, said, it's going to cost a lot of money to do this. Let's try this other route, which doesn't involve you spending thousands of dollars with Hiller. Let's try this other route first. And that's what we're trying, and that's what we'll see. And that's why I absolutely love Hiller. They are honest. They shoot you straight. And when it comes to Hiller, I am just convinced. I love talking about them. I use them. Obviously, they were at my house yesterday. But I care about them because they do things like that where they shoot me straight. I mean, I had a guy from well, I shouldn't say who. I had a guy from the internet company one time that was like, oh, we can't do that. Brought Hiller out to the home. Hiller was like, that's exactly what they're supposed to do. We could do what you want us to do or what they suggest you do, but that would cost you so much money. You don't want to do that. I'm like, great, perfect. That's awesome. They're the best. Way to go. And so Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Nashville Predators, who won last night, the Vanderbilt Commodores, who never lose, and the Tennessee Volunteers, call the Happy Face Truck today. Okay, let's start on the John Harbaugh to the Titans front. Again, John Harbaugh is meeting today with the New York Giants, and as is the case with free agents, when you get somebody in your building, you don't want to let them leave. Now, that doesn't mean that if Harbaugh were to leave the Giants, that Harbaugh is done with the Giants, but it just means that, hey, you know the Giants want Harbaugh. They're going to want to lock it down today. And again, we'll be on high alert as far as Harbaugh is concerned. And he is interviewing today for the Giants job, or I would say what's more the truth is that he's interviewing the Giants. Like, the Giants have rolled out the red carpet. The Giants want John Harbaugh. The Giants are all in. He is talking to the Giants like, okay, should I come and coach your organization? So we know Harbaugh is in New York. We know McDaniel is in Tennessee. Now, the reason McDaniel is important is because the Titans have already interviewed Raheem Morris in person. Mike McDaniel would satisfy the Rooney Rule. So the Titans, as soon as Mike McDaniel leaves the building, could hire anybody to be their coach. The Giants have already interviewed Raheem Morris, and they've already interviewed Antonio Pierce. So they could hire John Harbaugh right now. Tom Pelissero of NFL Network says that Harbaugh will interview with the Titans and will visit the Falcons before the end of the week. Of course, the Titans do have Mike McDaniel in today. They are interviewing Arthur Smith later today. And they supposedly have no set interview for tomorrow, which is leading a lot of people to believe that if John Harbaugh is going to visit the Giants, the Titans, and the Falcons by Friday or by the end of the week, then and the Titans have nothing going on tomorrow, it's probably wide open for John Harbaugh tomorrow. And I also believe that to be the case. And with each and every passing day that John Harbaugh has been on the market, the insiders seem to be clamoring more and more of this no, Harbaugh to the Titans could be real. Pelissero said it yesterday. Diana Rossini was on my old station this morning. She said that he loves Cam Ward and he loves Mike Borgonzi. And again, there hasn't been an insider out there that said Harbaugh's not going to the Titans. Not Schefter, not Garofolo, not Rappaport, not Pelissero, not Diana, not any of them. Graziano, Fowler, etc. So the insider community seems to be of the belief that John Harbaugh to the Titans is legitimately in play. And let's stop right here for just 1 second. Personally, I don't buy it. I do not buy that the Tennessee Titans are going to hire John Harbaugh. And it's not that I don't buy John Harbaugh's interest in the Titans because of the reasons that you probably think. I don't buy it. You probably think, well, Jared doesn't like Cam Ward, so when he hears John Harbaugh likes Cam Ward, he doesn't believe that, but everybody but Jared likes Cam Ward, so of course John Harbaugh likes Cam Ward. That's not the case. That's not why I don't believe John Harbaugh is just using the Titans as leverage and John Harbaugh is not actually interested in coming to this dumpster fire of an organization. I don't buy it because I don't think the Titans would ever do what it takes to land John Harbaugh. And in order to land John Harbaugh, I believe the Titans have to essentially give him the organization. You know what that means. He doesn't own the team, but he owns the team. Again, remember that a couple of, 6-7 years ago, this is what the Raiders did with John Gruden. Everybody had interest in John Gruden, and every time John Gruden would get a new TV contract at ESPN, and finally the Raiders gave Gruden a 10-year, $100 million contract, which was unheard of at the time, and total control of the organization, and John Gruden was back in Oakland for a little bit, and then later Vegas. I just don't think the Titans are going to give John Harbaugh the organization. But Jared, why is that such a big deal? The Ravens didn't give him the organization. Yes, but that's because when he got hired to the Baltimore Ravens, he was a special teams coach, and he was hired by a general manager who was a Hall of Fame player and is going to be a Hall of Fame executive. And that Hall of Fame executive had already won one Super Bowl when that happened. If the Titans went out and tried to hire a 40-year-old special teams coach who wasn't being actively pursued by everybody else, they could dictate the terms. If they told Bones Fossil, we'll give you the job, but you have to answer to Borgonzi, and we're going to pay you $3 million a year, and you can do that. Because Bones Fossil doesn't have another option. But that's not the case with John Harbaugh right now, is it? The Giants, as we speak, are putting the full court press in on John Harbaugh. Now, none of these guys, no matter who the coach is, none of these guys actually own the football team. But the guys I'm talking about, the guys with leverage, the guys that teams line up to hire, the guys with skins on the wall, They have such sway in those organizations and such contractual protection that the only person who can change what that guy says is the owner, because he's the one who has to write the check. Andy Reid has that. Nobody outside of the owner is more important in Kansas City than Andy Reid. What Andy says goes. Sean Payton has that. Mike Vrabel has that. Jim Harbaugh has that. Kyle Shanahan has that. Shockingly, did you know this? Ben Johnson has that in Chicago. And do you want to know why Ben Johnson, in his first year, has all the power in Chicago? Because the general manager in Chicago has already hired a head coach. And he fired him. And the owner fired him. And the president fired him. And they wanted Ben Johnson. And so they had to roll out the red carpet in order to get Ben Johnson. Because Ben Johnson, had he not taken the Bears job, Ben Johnson would have gotten a job last year. You know that, and I know that. Teams were lining up around the corner for Ben Johnson. The reason Ben Johnson didn't go to the Commanders the year before was because Ben Johnson didn't see eye to eye with Adam Peters about final say within the organization. In some organizations, the coach doesn't have that kind of weight. Nick Sirianni just won the Super Bowl. Howie Roseman calls the shots in Philadelphia. In some organization, it's the quarterback who carries that kind of weight based upon their contracts or their skills that everybody in the building knows we can't get another Josh Allen. And trust me, Sean McDermott knows in Buffalo, Josh calls the shots. Which takes me back to the Titans, and it takes me back to Harbaugh. I believe, and I have said this now for a week, I believe in order to land John Harbaugh, the Titans would have to give him a financial commitment that they have never made before for anybody else who didn't play quarterback. And I think that starts at $20 million, and it might go up. You know, Paul wrote this in a story, and he's texted me about it, and I heard him talking about it this morning. Well, Andy Reid makes $20 million a year, and John Harbaugh is not Andy Reid. So John Harbaugh is going to make $17 million a year. Why do I have to pay him $20 million a year, maybe north of $20 million a year, when he's not as good as Andy Reid? And the answer is because Andy Reid signed that contract, I don't know when, but I'm going to guess a couple of years ago. So that was yesterday's price. The second thing is Andy Reid was under contract in Kansas City when he signed that contract. It wasn't as if the Giants were competing with the Chiefs in order to sign Andy Reid. And with the Giants putting on the full court press, and with Harbaugh scheduled to make $17 million to sit his ass on the couch for the next 3 years, I think you'd have to go to 20, maybe even more. I think the Giants will go to 20. In order to get Harbaugh, you have to give him the organization. That's an extreme salary with extreme protection. So I think in order to get Harbaugh, and you know me, I've told people this before, when it comes to paying market price, if there are 4 players in free agency, let's say 4 wide receivers, and they're all solid, like they're all 4 solid receivers, and the market price for a solid receiver is $20 million, then you can say, you know what, I'll pay $20 million, or maybe I'll pay 19, or maybe I'll pay 17. But there's 4 guys out there, so I'll pay 20 if that's the market, and I'll get one of the 4 guys. If you want one of those 4 specifically, so you like Johnny, but you don't like the other 3, you have to overpay to get Johnny. If there's a 1 guy on the market, you have to overpay to get that guy. Alec Pierce, and I don't think Alec Pierce gets to free agency, but if Alec Pierce gets a free agent, you're going to have to overpay in order to get Alec Pierce. So when it comes to Harbaugh and the salary, we know the Giants are all in on him. I don't know what Atlanta's level of desire for Harbaugh is, but it seems serious enough that he'll go take a visit. So, yeah, you're going to be in a bidding war. So you're going to have to give him an extreme salary with what I call extreme protections. I think that's 5 years, $100 million, so $20 million a season with no offsets. Meaning, John Harbaugh could be fired, go coach another team, and collect 2 paychecks. And you would say, Jared, that's outrageous. Again, do you want John Harbaugh to coach your shitty team? If the answer is no, then you don't have to do these things. And you can go back and get a market coach. You can go get Mike McDaniel or Matt Naggie or Arthur Smith or Mike McCarthy or these other guys that would just be happy to have a job. But are those guys John Harbaugh? If you want John Harbaugh, you got to pay in order to get John Harbaugh. The second thing you'd have to do in order to get John Harbaugh is you'd have to give him the organization and say, okay, John, you are plotting the course for this franchise. So after 1 year with Cam Ward as the quarterback, if he thinks Cam Ward stinks and he wants to go hit the market and sign Kyler Murray to be the starting quarterback of the Tennessee Titans, as stupid as that sounds, well, he gets to do that. Again, John Gruden ran the Raiders. And when John Gruden ran the Raiders, he traded those draft picks and spent all that money on Antonio Brown. He wanted to do it. If John Harbaugh wants Jeremiah Love with the 4th overall pick, congratulations, Jeremiah Love. You're headed to Nashville. And that doesn't mean Mike Borgonzi wouldn't do anything. Mike Borgonzi would still run the personnel department. He'd hire and fire the scouts. They'd set the draft board. He'd set the schedules for who's attending which pro day. He would know, hey, this is the intel we got at the University of Alabama about this offensive lineman. But in the end, all of that information would get funneled up to the head coach. And the head coach, sitting there with John Harbaugh, would look at whatever discussion they were having and would say, okay, Reuben Bain or Jeremiah Love? And if John Harbaugh feels very strongly about Jeremiah Love, then Jeremiah Love is going to go on the board ahead of Reuben Bain, regardless of what Mike Borgonzi thinks. That's what you'd have to do. You give him those things, and I think you have a chance. And if you aren't willing to do those things, if you're not willing to give him the salary, and again, the contractual commitment. I mean, you're talking about the money that you've got to give him at $20 million a year, but you've got to pay him, and you've got to pay him even if he goes and works somewhere else, which Amy would hate. Like, at least she's not paying Vrabel anymore because he's getting paid by Robert Kraft. But again, we're going to sell Harbaugh. Hey, we want you so badly. Here's this contract. He gets to run the team. And Mike Borgonzi answers to him. That's what it would take. And if you don't give him those things, you cannot get him. And I'll tell you why you can't get him. Because I know the New York Giants are going to give that to him. They've probably already offered it. Joe Shane is the general manager. And there are people that are like, oh, yeah, no, that wouldn't be the insiders. Oh, yeah, no, Joe Shane, that wouldn't be any problem as far as John Harbaugh is concerned. Well, no, duh. Joe Shane knows that he's lucky to have a job. So he will gladly caddy for John Harbaugh if it means that he gets to keep waking up in the morning, driving into work, and his key card still works. He knows he's on borrowed time. Mike Borgonzi, on the other hand, got final say of the football operation less than a week and a half ago. You think he's ready to give that up? And I know the Giants will pay because the Giants have paid before. And they just sold 10% of the team to the Koch brothers. Last time I checked, I think they got a lot of money. So in my heart, when it comes to the Titans, And it comes to, again, the insiders, they're all out there. They all say, no, no, no. This is serious. John Harbaugh is interested in the Titans, and the Titans are interested in John Harbaugh. I have a hard time getting there. I feel like the Titans are a ploy. And of course, Harbaugh's camp will say all the right things. Oh, he loves Cam Ward. Oh, he loves Mike Borgonzi. Does he actually? I don't know. But it wouldn't help his leverage to sit there and say, oh, yeah, he really hates Cam Ward. The old man told me when it came to Mariota, when the Titans were interviewing in 2018, he said every single person they interview will say that they love Marcus Mariota because there's 32 of these on the planet. And what happened? Vrabel got the job. They had a plan for Mariota, and 2 years later, they benched him. So, again, with Harbaugh, I think it's him and the Giants, and the Giants are going to offer him the world, and the Titans and Falcons exist so that we make sure we get whatever it is we're looking for, we get that out of the Giants. And then there's the Titans element to this. The Titans may be being used as leverage. But I think the Titans are getting something out of this too. I don't think the Titans will give John Harbaugh the organization. And again, remember, the Commanders lost Ben Johnson over that exact issue with Adam Peters 2 years ago. I don't think, from what I've been told, that Amy Adams Strunk truly believes in giving the head coach all of the power. And she refused to do that with Mike Vrabel. I do not believe that Mike Borgonzi wants to be neutered, again, a week and a half after becoming truly the general manager of the Titans. And I also don't see the Titans setting a precedent with a contract the way Mark Davis did all those years ago with John Gruden, or the way David Tepper did years ago with Matt Rule. But to think that John Harbaugh hasn't earned the power to run the organization or a top-of-the-market contract, given who has power of the organization and top-of-the-market contracts in the NFL, compared with, or I would say, also factoring in his leverage, if you don't think Harbaugh is going to get final say in an organization, you are not in touch with the reality of the NFL and the situation the Titans find themselves in. John Harbaugh is every bit as accomplished as an NFL head coach as his brother Jim. He's as accomplished, or probably more accomplished, than Mike Vrabel. He's more accomplished than Ben Johnson. He's more accomplished than Kyle Shanahan. He is as accomplished as Sean Payton. And the Giants will give it to him. So why would he have any interest in your job if you won't give that to him? Again, all of his contemporaries, Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Mike Vrabel, Jim Harbaugh, they all have it. Ben Johnson has been coaching for 1 year. He's got it. I'm going to get that from the Giants. Why would I take your job if you won't give that to me? But here's the Titans part of this. Just like I think Harbaugh's using the Titans for leverage with the Giants, I think the Titans are using Harbaugh too. Harbaugh is using the Titans as the scary big bad wolf that if the Giants don't give in to his demands, he might go to Tennessee. No, for sure. He might actually do it. All the insiders are saying that. The Titans are using Harbaugh for credibility. They know they're not going to pay a head coach $20 million a year, and they aren't going to give him full control of the organization. And I assume they won't do that. Now, we'll get to that in a second. There's one little caveat there, but I assume the Titans are not going to give Harbaugh $20 million a year and full control of the organization. But the fact that it's gotten to this stage is pretty important. Why? Because when Diana Russini says things like, John Harbaugh likes Mike Borgonzi, that gives a 3-14 general manager credibility. The fact that Harbaugh isn't just brushing off the Titans is a sign that, hey, maybe this isn't that bad of a job. And the Titans need that because they have faced so much negativity after firing Mike Vrabel and winning 6 games over the last 2 years. And they are moving into a new stadium where they are asking their fans to pay thousands of dollars for PSLs, that they need some credibility. The fact that a John Harbaugh is willing to even come to Nashville, the fact that a Diana Russini and a Tom Pelissero and an Adam Schefter are on television and they are saying, oh my God, these guys would have serious interest in coaching the Titans, makes people think, you know what? This organization isn't as much of a tire fire as everybody has been saying it is for the last 2 years. And if and when he picks the Giants and it comes out that Amy went all in to get him, perhaps the fans will say, hey, Amy put up a fight. They tried for Harbaugh. It wasn't little old Titans, and they were always going to go with Matt Nagy. They tried. They just couldn't land him. And the Titans need that. They need that with the outside NFL world, and they need that, I think, with their own fans. So I think the Titans are using Harbaugh for credibility the same way Harbaugh is using the Titans for leverage. That's what I firmly believe. I firmly believe no matter what the insiders say, and all the insiders are going to say is what they've been told. I do not believe that John Harbaugh is seriously considering coaching the Titans, nor do I think the Titans are actually considering John Harbaugh as their next head coach and giving him the price and authority that it would cost to be able to get him. I think it's all a charade, and I think both sides are getting what they want. Harbaugh is going to get the best offer you can get from the Giants. He's going to get a great offer, and he's going to be in total control of that organization in New York City. And the Titans have now proven to their fans and proven to the league that we aren't so much of a joke after all. That's what I firmly believe. Now, when it comes to what could change this, I have been wrong before. Not very often, but I have been wrong. I'd say that when it comes to my certainty that Harbaugh to the Titans has no real legs to it, in terms of like it actually happening, I'd say my confidence is at 90%, which means that there is 10% for the possibility that I could be wrong. Because this is where the 10% lies. What would lead a general manager who has full control of an organization and has had full control of an organization for 1 week? What would it take for him and a notoriously cheap organization to win a bidding war for the hottest coaching candidate on the market? And the answer is, it would take the same thing that it takes for all these coaches to get massive salaries and get total control of organizations. The owner says, do it. That's the one thing that could get in the way of this. Again, Mike Borgonzi likes his job, and he was just given final say. But if Amy Adams Strunk looks at him and says, do it, or else, he'll do it. Because if not, he'll get fired. When the owner says, do it, and doesn't leave any room for interpretation, then the team must do what the owner says. Floyd told me a story one time. He flew down to Houston, talked about Adams, had this big plan for what the Titans should do or what the Titans could be or what the Titans could. And apparently after his big presentation to Bud Adams sat there across his desk pushed up his glasses up the top of his nose and said, "You do know who owns this team, right?" And Floyd said, "Yes, sir." Got on the plane and flew home. How do you think John Gruden got that shocking contract at the time with the Raiders? Do you think that Reggie McKenzie, the general manager at the time of the Raiders, who Gruden would later kick out, do you think Reggie McKenzie's the one who did it? No. The owner. Why is Mike Vrabel the coach of the Patriots? The owner. Why did Kyle Shanahan get full control of the 49ers organization as a first-time head coach? Because the owner was tired of being a joke with Trent Baalke and Jim Harbaugh, and then Jim Tomsula and Chip Kelly, and okay, fine, here you go. The owner has said that Mike Borgonzi will lead the search, but that was before John Harbaugh got fired. And how Amy would it be of Amy if she's sitting there and she's saying, "Oh, well, at the beginning of this, I thought I wanted Borgonzi to lead the search when I thought we were going to be debating between Jeff Hafley and Matt Nagy. But now John Harbaugh's out there? Go get Harbaugh." Again, how Amy would it be of Amy to change her mind? Go get him. And the only reason I see this as a possibility, and again, I put this at 10%, is only because desperate times call for desperate measures. And Amy Adams Strunk knows right now she's considered a joke, both with her paying customers and around the rest of the NFL. She knows she's asking people to pay thousands of dollars in PSLs to help finance her new stadium. She knows she's got egg all over her face after what happened with Mike Vrabel and the success that Mike Vrabel has had this year with the New England Patriots. So could that level of embarrassment, coupled with the fact that they are moving into a new stadium and John Harbaugh will sell tickets, and unlike Will Levis or Brian Callahan or even Cam Ward, I actually think John Harbaugh, if you were going to go buy tickets because the organization hired John Harbaugh, I actually would get behind that. Because Harbaugh does bring a level of seriousness and credibility to the Titans that no other candidate could give them. So could that embarrassment and that desperation be enough for Amy to say, fuck it, and go give John Harbaugh whatever the hell he wants? History with her and the Titans would tell me no. But at the same time, I can't totally rule it out. 90%, the Titans aren't really interested in Harbaugh because of the money and the power they'd have to give him. And Harbaugh isn't really interested in the Titans because he's not going to get the money, he's not going to get the power, and he'd rather take the Giants job, and the Giants will give it to him. 10%, Amy Adams Strunk feels like an embarrassment, and that overpaying for John Harbaugh would be what it would take in order to get her back within the good graces of her own fan base and the rest of the NFL. That's where I sit. So that's the first thing on the Harbaugh front. The second news item today, Mike McDaniel is currently in the city of Nashville. I don't know if his interview is over yet or if it's still going on and he's still over at St. Thomas Sports Park. But Mike McDaniel interviews with the Tennessee Titans today. And again, the Titans are interviewing everybody. I mean, everybody and their grandmother is either going to interview for the Titans or has already interviewed for the Titans. But McDaniel, a lot like Kevin Stefanski, is one of the candidates who Titan fans are very, very excited about. At least Titans Twitter is very, very excited about Mike McDaniel. Can I ask why? Like, why does Titans Twitter, why do the Twitter bros, why do they like him as a head coach so much for the Tennessee Titans? Now, I'm not saying I hate the idea of Mike McDaniel as the next head coach for the Titans because I don't know Mike McDaniel. I'm not impressed with Mike McDaniel. I watched the Hard Knocks when the Dolphins were doing the in-season stuff because they played the Titans on Monday Night Football, and I wanted to see how he handled it, and I was very turned off. I was very turned off by the fact that it felt like Mike McDaniel was insecure and that he was going into the building wearing Gucci and designer brands and like he was Louis Vuitton, like he was trying to be one of the players. Like, dude, put on a Dolphin sweatshirt. And then the way he talked to the team, it felt like a lot of unnecessary cursing. It felt like, the little short guy who could never play football talking to all the football players and trying to get all the football players to respect him. And it just turned me off. But that's it. I don't know Mike McDaniel. I'm not here to say, no, absolutely not Mike McDaniel. But I'm also not saying, oh my God, we got to do whatever it takes to get Mike McDaniel. Because he wasn't all that impressed with Mike McDaniel's tenure in Miami, and I don't know how you could be. So I have to ask, why do some of you people out there, why do you like Mike McDaniel so much? And when I ask that, people say, oh my God, Jared, his play design is just off the charts. And there are two things when it comes to the NFL and the way people talk about things on social media and in the media that scream to me bullshit. One is arm talent when it comes to a quarterback. People talk about the Cam Ward arm talent. Most NFL quarterbacks have arm talent. Will Levis has arm talent. You know who's got the best arm talent in the NFL? Anthony Richardson has the best arm talent in the NFL. Big fucking deal. Arm talent. And the other is play design. Oh my God. Play design, Jared. It's just, it's off the charts. Okay. If that's the case, then can I ask why the Dolphins suck so bad? Can I ask why things didn't work out between Mike McDaniel and Vic Fangio when Vic Fangio was the defensive coordinator in Miami for one season and then went to Philadelphia and won a Super Bowl? What happened there? And when you look at the resume of Mike McDaniel, granted, I know he's a very, very different guy than Matt Nagy. But when you look at his resume, it's really not any different than Matt Nagy's. And the same people on Twitter that are like, oh, Mike McDaniel, absolutely hate Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy in Chicago was 34-31, made the playoffs twice, and was 0-2 in the playoffs. Mike McDaniel in Miami was 35-33 and 0-2 in the playoffs. So Nagy was one more game over 500 at 34-31 than McDaniel at 35-33. Nagy was 3 games over 500. McDaniel was 2 games over 500, and they were both 0-2 in the playoffs. It's the same fucking resume. Now, that doesn't mean they're the same guy. That doesn't mean they're the same coach. But you guys love the fact that McDaniel is from the Kyle Shanahan tree. Nagy's from the Andy Reid tree. But the play design, Jared, I mean, his play design, it's unbelievable. Yeah, okay. Let's talk about play design for a second, if we can, when it comes to Mike McDaniel. Do you know how easy it is to design plays when you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle at wide receiver? Like, do you know how easy that is? You do realize that with Rich Gannon at quarterback playing at an MVP level, with Hall of Famers Jerry Rice and Tim Brown at wide receiver, Bill Callahan got to a Super Bowl. Was his play design incredible? Think about this. If you had a football team with Derrick Henry at running back, and you had Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle at wide receiver, you're telling a defensive coordinator, whether it is the best, smartest, most tenured defensive coordinator in the NFL. Vic Fangio, Dick LeBeau, Bill Belichick before he went crazy, Monte Kiffin, whomever. If you are saying to that guy, hey, you've got to face Derrick Henry, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. If you're saying that, he's going to say, all right, well, what do you want me to do? Stop the run? Or do you want me to stop the guys from running by us? Because we only get 11 players, and our corners cannot cover those receivers. So what do you want us to do? And if you don't have the Texans defense where you get to the quarterback in about 20 seconds after he says hike, I say 20.20 seconds, excuse me, after he says hike, you're going to be in trouble one way or the other. He had elite skill players in Miami. Elite. He had one of the highest paid left tackles in the NFL in Teron Armstead. They spent at guard. They spent in Miami. And the guy was 2 games over 500 and 0-2 in the playoffs. So I don't understand why I just, oh my God, I love him. I love him. Oh my God, he's so good. Jess said he had Tua in all caps, Jared. First of all, 2 thoughts on that. Number 1, if you're going to use the Tua excuse, well, Mike McDaniel was there when Tua got his contract. And I had seen enough out of Tua to say, do not pay that guy. Did Mike McDaniel have the foresight, this offensive guru, play design guru, did he have the balls to say, no, we do not need to sign this guy to a contract? Whatever we do, we do not need to sign this guy to a contract. Whatever we do. I doubt that. And then once Tua got the contract, Tua wasn't any good. And the thing is, again, and this is, I don't know if this is a Mike McDaniel thing or if this is a Tua thing, they never beat good teams. I mean, that was what I always said. Every time they play a playoff team, they'd lose. When they would play a bad team at noon on CBS, they were great. Matt Nagy beat Tom Brady on Thursday Night Football. Again, their resumes are almost identical. Matt Nagy has a Coach of the Year award. Mike McDaniel doesn't have any of that. But his play design is elite, Jared. Okay. Again, I think I could design some pretty sick plays with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. What is the deal with the Matt Nagy or with the Mike McDaniel obsession and the Matt Nagy hate? Trent says Matt Nagy is bald, Jared. You already admitted this yesterday. See, here's the thing that's funny about that. For some reason, young-ish, skinny guys are just beloved on Twitter as offensive play callers and as gurus. Whereas when it comes to defense, it's not the young, skinny guy that everybody loves as much as it's kind of the old veteran guy or the tough guy. People love when it's a defensive coach. People love Vic Fangio, old defensive coordinator sits up there. Oh, man, you don't want to face that defense. Those guys, they're so tough. You don't want to. But when it comes to the young, skinny guys, everyone's like, genius. They're all geniuses. Really? Was Brian Callahan a genius? By the way, I bet Brian Callahan drew up some nice plays. Play design in Cincinnati. Yeah, it's easy to draw up really nice plays when you have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. How about the play design here? Play design. In fact, I actually remember the Titans Twitter film gurus, the same people that fucking dropped their pants for Mike McDaniel. The Titans film Twitter gurus were all like, look at the tape. Callie, I hate when people call a coach by their nickname. Callie is an elite play designer and Will Levis is just screwing everything up. Unbelievable. Crazy. But hey, I don't get the McDaniel thing. If you want to consider him, fine. To me, he's the same as all these other guys that have had experiences in the NFL. They haven't all been bad. They're not all Callahan. And I consider them all kind of the same, which is tell me why it failed the first time. Was it that guy's fault? Was it not that guy's fault? But throw him onto the list of other coaching candidates. just with Arthur Smith, with Matt Nagy, with Kevin Stefanski, with all those guys. Just they're all candidates, and then pick the one you like the best. But not this, oh my God, McDaniel. Oh God, he's so good. I don't, there's nothing I've seen out of him that makes me think that. And speaking of the other guy who is coming in for an interview today when it comes to the Titans, that would be Arthur Smith. And boy, I'll tell you, it does not feel like the Titans are going to hire Arthur Smith to be the next head coach. In fact, it almost feels like a courtesy interview, the same way Jason Garrett is a courtesy interview, the same way that Steve Spagnuolo is a courtesy interview. It feels like Arthur is a courtesy interview. We're interviewing every Tom, Dick, and Harry, and we'll give you one so that you're still in the category of a head coach candidate, even though we are not actually considering. You know me. I like Arthur. I know Arthur. I know Arthur's a good coach. The one thing that I do want to say when it comes to Arthur Smith that I saw all over social media on Monday night was this just incessant Titan fan screaming about, look at that Steelers offense. Arthur Smith sucks. Whoa. Take a deep breath here. You cannot pin the Pittsburgh Steelers' offensive performance, 6 points, 175 yards of offense against the Texans. You cannot pin that on Arthur Smith. The Pittsburgh Steelers have no good players on offense. None. I think DK Metcalf is cooked. I don't think he's the same caliber of player that he once was 2-3 years ago. And I think that's why the Seahawks moved off of him. I think the Seahawks are great at identifying their own players and saying, Russ is cooked, move on. Geno Smith is cooked, move on. DK Metcalf is cooked, move on. I think the best offensive player on the Pittsburgh Steelers is Kenneth Gainwell. And Kenneth Gainwell is a backup running back. That's the best they've got. And Arthur Smith was going up again with an offense that had no good players on it against a defense that I truly believe is as good as the 2000 Ravens. And I don't throw that around very lightly because the 2000 Ravens provided the first heartbreak of my life when they beat the Titans here at Nissan Stadium in the playoffs. That Texan defense is nasty. That Texan defense, I look at them and they remind me of the Buccaneers with John Gruden that won the Super Bowl. They remind me of the Denver Broncos with Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware that won the Super Bowl with a Peyton Manning who couldn't even feel his fingertips. That Houston Texans defense, it's an all-star team. Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, Danico Autry, Sheldon Rankins. They just come at you. They've got the best corner in the NFL. I think they've got one of the best safeties in the NFL that nobody ever talks about in Jalen Petrie. It is an all-star team on defense, and they're coached by DeMeco Ryans. So Arthur Smith went up against one of the best defenses in recent memory with an offense that had a 40-year-old cooked quarterback and no good players on it, and you're shocked that they scored 6 points. I said before the game kicked off, I said, when it comes to the Super Bowl, I think it's going to be Seattle and Houston. And the only thing that was going to keep Houston from getting to the Super Bowl, in my opinion, the only thing that is going to keep them is their quarterback. You know, it's funny. When you've got a Ryan Tannehill, a veteran quarterback that's been dumped before, who knows, like, he may be your franchise quarterback, but he knows he's not going to ever be confused with Josh Allen. You can tell Ryan Tannehill, hey, man, you need to turn around and hand the ball to Derrick Henry 43 times a game. Got it? Yes, sir. But C.J. Stroud was drafted number 2 overall. C.J. Stroud was the offensive rookie of the year. C.J. Stroud is the future of the Houston Texans. And I just don't know if the Texans, D'Amico and Nick Caserio, and I don't know if they have it in them to go to CJ Stroud and say, CJ, we need you to play the role of game manager. I said to Corey Curtis before the Mike Borgonzi press conference last week, I said, I think the Houston Texans would be better off right now for this playoff run with Davis Mills at quarterback. Remember, their winning streak started when Davis Mills was their quarterback. And I said, because they can look at Davis Mills and they can say, Davis, go be Trent Dilfer. Don't screw up the game. And Davis Mills will look at them and say, yes, sir. And then he'll go out and do it. I don't know if the Texans feel they can tell that to CJ Stroud. Again, this is the future of their franchise. And the second you say, CJ, we don't trust you enough to want you to win us the game. We want to run, punt, and then put our great defense back on the field. That's the second that a young guy starts to lose a little confidence and maybe lose a little faith in the coaching staff. And you can't have that because, again, he's the future of the organization. They are going to sign him to a contract for $58 million a year or more after this offseason, no matter what happens against the Patriots this week. So when it comes to this Texan defense, that's how good I think they are. And CJ tried to give the game to the Steelers and couldn't do it. They still got blown out because the defense is so good. So you cannot like Arthur Smith. That's your business. But you cannot tell me with a straight face that Monday night was proof that Arthur Smith can't coach offense. Because I'm sorry, but I've seen Arthur Smith coach offense. And I've seen Arthur Smith coach offense very, very well. You've seen Arthur Smith coach offense. And you've seen Arthur Smith coach offense very, very well. You can say whatever you want to make yourself feel better. But you cannot convince me that Arthur Smith cannot coach offense. Because, again, that Steeler team had no good players on it. And I think that's part of the reason why Harbaugh or Tomlin was like, you know what? I think I've had a nice run here, but I think enough is enough. All right, let's get to your reaction here on the program. I did want to leave a little bit of time in order to do that because we hadn't been getting to a lot of comments lately. So let's go ahead and get into your reaction. One person says, your theory on skinny coaches makes sense. If I can't trust you to be disciplined and take accountability with your own body, how can I trust you to be disciplined and have accountability as a head coach? Now, I think there can be fat people who are really good at being coaches. I mean, Bill Belichick, as somebody who knows Bill very well, told me recently, has triple C's, and Bill Belichick was a very good coach. Andy Reid's a very good coach. Mike Holmgren was a very good coach. In basketball, Rick Majerus was a very good coach. Just because you're a fat slob doesn't mean that you can't coach. What it means is you can't play. It doesn't mean you can't coach. I think what's happened in life is we think that because somebody's good at something, they might be good at everything. And that's just not the case. I think what's happened across the NFL is we've stereotyped these coaches. I always joke about it. The McVays, the Shanahans, the offensive guru coach. Good-looking dude, ball cap, skinny, defined jawline, big laminated play sheet, drinking a latte, that everybody looks at those guys the same. We've stereotyped them. Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan have stereotyped a Kevin O'Connell. I mean, every single one of these skinny white coaches with a defined jawline who coaches offense is just a genius. Every single one of them. Did you see the season Kevin O'Connell had this year? But again, I think that's just how we've decided, good looking guy. He must, like the guy said, take care of himself. He must be smart. He must be disciplined. He must be. Brian Callahan wasn't fat, but the guy couldn't hold anybody accountable. Mike Vrabel was fat. Mike Vrabel can hold people accountable. He can coach. I think it's stupid. I think it's stupid to think that Mike McCarthy can't coach. And yet there are a lot of people out there that think Mike McCarthy can't coach. One person said, Harbaugh's camp denied wanting $20 million a year in full control. Of course they did. Again, do you really think that John Harbaugh is going to go to the Giants and not get a top-of-the-market contract and answer to Joe Shane? Forget about your job. Let's just think about the Giants' job, since that is, in fact, where he is right now. He is in New York interviewing with the Giants. You really think John Harbaugh is going to go to New York and Joe Shane, the guy who went viral for begging Saquon Barkley to stay with the Giants because they might one day induct him into the Ring of Honor, you think John Harbaugh is going to answer to that guy? Of course he's not. When you pay a coach that kind of money, and you have a coach who's that accomplished, who comes in, you want to give that guy power of your organization because he is supposed to be the leader of your organization. I thought something that Steve Bisciotti, the owner, said yesterday was pretty telling when he was talking about the candidates that he's looking for in a coach. And he said, I'd like to look at these guys who were the hottest candidates as coordinators 6 or 7 years ago, but for whatever reason, they went to another team and they didn't have a quarterback. And I'd like to look at some of those guys. And I think Arthur Smith's an example of that. A guy who was a hot coaching candidate, went to a team with no plan at quarterback, and it blew up in his face in Atlanta. But the reason that I bring up that Bisciotti said that is because I think what Bisciotti's saying when he says that is, I'm not sure Harbaugh's really all that in a bag of chips. I am here to tell you, the New York Giants think that he is all that and a bag of chips. They absolutely think that. Jess says, am I the only one that thought Callie was attractive? Oh my God, LOL. We ran into the Callahans. We were vacationing, Lindsay and I, at the same resort as the Callahans before the start of the 24 season. And Lindsay did not know who Brian Callahan was before that. And she was like, I think Brian Callahan's cute. So make of that what you will, Jess, if that makes you feel any better. At least Lindsay's on your side. Chase says, I prefer an offensive play caller as head coach. Just feel that's the best way. If you get a great OC, you're going to end up losing them. I do kind of believe some of that, but I also think some dudes just cannot coach teams. I don't think some guys can coach. And I don't have an opinion one way or another on the coach calling plays or the coach not calling plays. I really don't. I mean, Mike Vrabel, I don't think can coach and call plays. That doesn't mean that I don't think Mike Vrabel can coach. Kyle Shanahan can coach and call plays. I think he's very good at it. I think that's one of those things where, for some reason, people, because of one example that they've either experienced or one example that they saw, they all of a sudden think, this is how it's supposed to be done. And the NFL's told us there are plenty of ways to skin a cat. Again, everybody, if you're starting over with a franchise, says you have to have an elite quarterback to win the Super Bowl. And yet last year, Jalen Hurts won the Super Bowl because his team was awesome and their defense was number 1 in the league. I don't care if the coach calls plays or not. What I care about is whether or not the coach can replace those coordinators and those guys when they leave. Alex says, honest question, does Titans ownership really care about winning? Truth be told, and I wouldn't say that I really know Titans ownership, but I would say that I know Titans ownership more than you do. Yes, I think they do. I think not caring and not knowing are two different things. I think Titans ownership cares. I don't think they know how to build a winning product. I think they care. They want to build a winner, but I don't think they know how to build a winner. Just like I think Titan fans, I think they care. I think they want the Titans to be good. I don't think they know what the Titans have to do in order to be good, but I do think they care. It's like the Mike Borgonzi stuff. I mean, look, I think Borgonzi is a smart guy, and I certainly think he's a lot smarter than Rand Carthon. But the way people talk about Borgonzi, like, this great general manager the Titans have, the guy won 3 fucking games. And I'm like the only person on the planet who's like, he won 3 fucking games. And people say, well, they knew this team wasn't going to be very good this year. But did they know it was going to be the same as last year? Like, there's a big gap between Super Bowl and 3 games. I think the Titans ownership does care. I just don't think they know. And that's the difference. Kelsey says, if you don't like the big fat guys, why would you like the nerdy, wannabe, cool, geeky guys? Because the nerdiness makes you think he's a genius with his play design. That's why. Joe says, I think McDaniel's personality is overblown, but they will get a lot of time to talk to him today. I'm not a McDaniel fan. The one thing I don't understand, I don't know Mike McDaniel. You don't know Mike McDaniel. I don't know Matt Naggie. You don't know Matt Naggie. The one thing I don't understand in all of this is I don't understand. I don't understand how you can like Mike McDaniel but not like Matt Naggie when you don't know either guy and they have almost identical resumes. That's what I don't get. One person says, listen to the other coaches talk about McDaniel's motion and play designs. It's accepted around the league that he's a guru. I don't care what other coaches say. The coaches don't ever tell the truth. Give me a break there. Again, we wait. We wait to see what happens with the Giants and Harbaugh. I think it's 50-50 that Harbaugh ends up the Giants coach by 6 o'clock tonight. And I know a lot of people will be really upset when that happens, but maybe I'm wrong. And maybe the Titans will go all in and they'll actually end up getting John Harbaugh, which I would support if they did. But let's not get our hopes up. Tomorrow's program is going to have Easton Freeze. He is going to join us. And again, he thinks Borgonzi's great. He thinks the Titans are so smart. He knows everything about the organization. So he will join us on the program tomorrow. Until then, we await. And most people think John Harbaugh will be in Nashville tomorrow, so we'll keep our eyes on that as well. Be sure to like and subscribe. Brett says, am I going live if it happens? If he signs with the Giants, maybe. If he signs with the Titans, yes, we will go live when that happens. That, we'll see. Like and subscribe. Again, thanks to Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. We'll be back live tomorrow at 2 o'clock.